Alright, welcome to a quick gear review. It's that time of year again. I'm going to be doing Should I Fish episodes and some gear reviews. This is also a shout out to anybody that wants to do an interview. I'm looking for local Ontario anglers to talk fishing, do some one-on-ones. Now, I will say that I am not the most technical angler. I am not the most experienced. I am not a professional by any means, so take this with a grain of salt. The one thing that I am is incredibly hard on gear. If I haven't broke it, I haven't owned it. Hashimoto Concepts can attest to that. I put shit where it shouldn't belong, and I fish shit hard. I broke 2 tranks this year, a couple of different times actually. They're kind of patched together now to just get me through the season, but yeah, I'm hard on gear and I try a lot of different stuff. So, not that gives me any merit to my opinions, but I think it gives me some. I've been testing out some new line. I don't like changing line very often, but I do like just to try stuff out. Stuff I've been trying out is P-Line CXX. I believe it's a co-poly. It could be a mono. I think it's co-poly. That's 20 pound that I've been using in crystal. I'm not buying any more, I'll say that, but I will say there's some good things about it. So we'll start off with the pros, I guess. Pro, line diameter to consistency. It's incredible. It's consistent. I think I've gone through 5 spools on my reel so far, and it's consistent. Smooth coating. It's incredibly smooth. One of the smoothest fishing lines I've ever touched, actually. It feels like they put a little grease on it. Line knot strength. Knots are great. You will not burn this stuff. I've been dry tying all my knots just to test it out and see if I could. San Diego Jams, polymers, and improved clinch knots, and you can't burn it. You can just dry knot this thing like crazy, and you won't have a problem. So if you don't like spitting on stuff, then you're good to go. It's also cheap. 600 yard spool I think was 27 something dollars. So that's not bad. It is clear, and I've been changing it a lot because of one of the cons, but it hasn't gotten cloudy. It's fairly abrasive resistant. It's like a high class mono is what I will say. Now, the cons, a lot of stretch. More stretch than I'd like. Now, mind you, I use fluorocarbon day in and day out, so everything seems a little stretchy to me, but I also do use big game mono, so I know what stretch is like and how to handle it. It stretches too much for my liking, even more so than mono. It sinks like a rock. It just sinks instantly, and when you get it wet, this stuff expands like crazy. If you fill your spool up with this just shy of full, your first couple casts, you're going to be taking about 50 yards off. It expands and absorbs water. It's almost like a sponge. I've never seen a line that does that. To the point where on the size of the reel I was using was a Curado DC 150 size. By the time I got the line off enough for that spool to actually spin around in the frame of the reel, I was spooling every cast, so that's not good, especially if you got a big bait on and you're casting out there and you have 3 wraps around the bottom of your spool. It's a little iffy. You're thumbing that pretty tightly. What else? There was something else. Oh, memory. Funny enough, it's got a crazy amount of memory. It's like a crazy ex-girlfriend. I will say it's gotten so bad, and mind you, it's a 150 size reel, but I have used lots of big game mono and different kinds of mono on smaller reels, and this stuff is brutal. I spool up at 6 a.m. and I'm on the water by 8, and by the time I make my first cast 2 hours later, it is coiled up like a garage door spring under load. It is brutal. Now that's fine if you're doing soft baits, chuck and wind, you always have tension on there, but if you're doing any kind of start and stop and you know, glide baits, jerk baits, whatever you're using it for, it's gonna cause you some headaches. It just does. It's so coily that it actually does reduce your casting distance, I found, because I have been using it on my smaller swim bait rod because I don't like testing a line with bigger, expensive baits. It reduces it probably by 30 to 20%, depending on how bad the coiling is. So that's not good. But it's cheap, it's smooth, knot strength is great. If you're just using smaller baits and heavier baits and you don't mind a little bit of stretch, I'd go big game. That's my gear review.